Kim Tae-ho rubbed his tired eyes and looked at the clock on the wall. It was 3 in the morning on Lunar Research Station Gamma 7. The night shift was always quiet. But tonight felt different. Something was happening in Lab 12 for the past 6 months. The mysterious pod had sat silent in the containment chamber. Asteroid miners had found it floating in space near Jupiter. It looked like a giant crystal egg, blue and shimmering. Nobody knew what was inside. Nobody knew where it came from. Tae-ho was the station's xenobiologist. His job was to study alien life forms. But this pod was his biggest mystery. Every scan showed the same results. The shell was made of unknown materials. Inside, something was alive. But the readings made no sense. He walked down the empty corridor toward Lab 12. His footsteps echoed in the silence. The other scientists were sleeping. Only the night crew was awake, and they were busy with their own work. Tae-ho entered the lab and stopped. The pod was glowing. Soft blue light pulsed from inside the crystal shell. This was new. It's very new. He moved closer to the containment chamber. The pod sat on a metal table surrounded by sensors and cameras. Everything was recording. Something happened. The other scientists would see it later. The glowing got brighter. Tae-ho checked the sensors. The temperature inside the pod was rising. The life signs were getting stronger. Something was waking up. Crack. A thin line appeared on the pod's surface. Then another. The crystal shell was breaking apart. Tae-ho grabbed his scanner and moved closer. This was the moment they had all been waiting for. After 6 months, they would finally see what was inside. More cracks appeared. Pieces of crystal fell to the table. The blue light got brighter and brighter. Tae-ho had to squint his eyes. Then, the pod broke open. Steam came out first. Then a small arm reached through the opening. The arm was thin and delicate, covered in skin that looked like it had tiny diamonds under the surface. The skin was blue, but not dark blue. It was the color of a summer sky. Tae-ho held his breath. A head appeared next. It was the head of a child, but not a human child. The face was small and perfect. The eyes were huge and golden, like liquid amber. There were no ears, just small holes on the sides of the head. The child had no hair, but the skin on the scalp had beautiful patterns that moved like slow water. The creature looked around the lab with those big golden eyes. It seemed confused and scared. It was clearly very young, maybe just born. Tae-ho felt his heart beat faster. This was the discovery of a lifetime. First contact with an alien species. A living, breathing alien child. The creature tried to climb out of the broken pod. It was having trouble. Its legs were shaking. Tae-ho wanted to help, but he knew the rules. Never touch an unknown life form without protection. But the creature was so small and helpless. It looked at Tae-ho through the glass of the containment chamber. Those golden eyes seemed to be asking for help. Tae-ho made a decision that would change his life forever. He opened the chamber. The creature stopped moving when it heard the sound. It looked at Tae-ho with hope in its eyes. Tae-ho reached out. His hand, slowly, carefully. The creature reached back. Its tiny fingers touched Tae-ho's hand. The skin felt warm and smooth, like silk. The creature smiled, showing small white teeth. Then it did something unexpected. It grabbed Tae-ho's finger and brought it to its mouth. Before Tae-ho could pull away, the creature bit him. The bite was gentle, not painful. The creature's teeth were small and sharp, but it only made a tiny hole in Tae-ho's finger. A drop of blood appeared. But something strange happened next. Instead of pain, Tae-ho felt warmth spreading up his arm. It was a good feeling, like drinking hot tea on a cold day. The warmth moved through his whole body. The creature let go of his finger and looked up at him. Its golden eyes were bright and happy. It opened its mouth and spoke one word in perfect Korean. Pops. Tae-ho stared in shock. The creature had just called him Pops. How did it know Korean? How did it know any human language? The creature smiled. Again, and reached up with both arms. It wanted Tae-ho to pick it up, like a human baby asking for its father. Tae-ho lifted the small creature carefully. It was light, maybe 3 kilograms, felt warm against his chest. The creature snuggled close and made soft, happy sounds. "Pops," it said again, looking up at Tejo with love and trust. Tejo felt something he had never felt before. This creature, this alien child, had chosen him. Somehow, in some way he didn't understand, they were connected now. The creature yawned with its tiny mouth. It was tired after being born. It closed its golden eyes and fell asleep in Tejo's arms, breathing slowly and peacefully. Tejo stood there in the quiet lab, holding an alien child that had called him Pops. He looked at his finger where the creature had bitten him. The small wound was already healing, but he could still feel that warm feeling in his body. He didn't know what had just happened. He didn't know what the bite meant. He didn't know why. The creature could speak Korean, but he knew one thing for sure. His life had just changed forever. The creature stirred in his. Pops Tejo smiled. Whatever this little one was, wherever it came from, he would take care of it. He would protect it. He would be its Pops. Outside the lab windows, space looked the same as always. Black and endless, filled with stars. But Tejo knew that somewhere out there, in the darkness between the stars, someone might be looking for this child. Someone might be coming for both of them. But for now, in this quiet moment, there was just a man and a sleeping alien child who had chosen each other in the most unexpected way. The creature's golden eyes opened for just a moment. It looked at Tejo and smiled. "Pops," it whispered, and went back to sleep. Tejo held the child closer and wondered what tomorrow would bring. 3 days had passed since the alien child first opened its golden eyes and called Tejo Pops. 3 days that changed everything on Lunar Research Station Gamma-7. The child was growing fast. Too fast. On the first day, it was the size of a human baby. On the second day, it looked like a 2-year-old. Now, on the third day, it appeared to be about 4 years old. Its blue skin had become brighter, and the diamond-like patterns moved more quickly under the surface. Dr. Park Sojin, the station commander, stood in Tejo's quarters watching the child play with a broken computer tablet. The device had been damaged in a lab accident last week. Now it was working perfectly. "How is this possible?" Dr. Park asked. She was a stern woman with short black hair and worried eyes. "Children don't grow this fast. They certainly don't fix complex electronics." Tejo watched the child who had chosen the name Hannah for herself yesterday. She was taking apart another device, but her small fingers moved with incredible skill. She understood how everything worked just by touching it. Said she learned so quickly. Yesterday she could only say a few words. Today she speaks like a normal child. She knows things she shouldn't know. Hannah looked up from her work. Her golden eyes sparkled with intelligence that seemed too old for her young face. "Pops, this machine is very simple," she said in perfect Korean. "Humans make things too complicated. See? If you connect this wire here and move this chip there, it works much better." She handed the device to Dr. Park. It was a scanner that had been broken for months. Now it hummed with power and showed readings that were clearer than ever before. Dr. Park stared at the device, then at Hannah. "This is impossible. She's just a child. It's not just any child," Tejo said quietly. He had been thinking about this for 3 days. Something special happened when she bit me. I can feel it. We're connected somehow. It was true. Tejo had been experiencing strange changes too. His eyesight was sharper. His mind worked faster. When he looked at alien technology, he somehow understood how it functioned. It was as if Hannah's bite had given him new abilities. Lee Dongwoo burst into the room without knocking. The communications officer was breathing hard, his face pale with fear. "Commander, you need to see this," he said. "It's the long-range sensors. Have picked up something big." They followed him to the control room. On the main screen, dots of light were moving toward their position. There were dozens of them, maybe hundreds. "They appeared 6 hours ago," Lee said. "At first, I thought it was a sensor error, but the signals are getting stronger. Whatever they are, they're heading straight for us." Dr. Park studied the display. The objects were moving faster than anything humans had ever built. Much faster. "Are they ships?" she asked. They have to be, Lee replied. But they're not like. Any ships in our database? Look at these energy readings. They're off the charts. Hannah had followed them to the control room. She stood on her tiptoes to see the screen better. When she saw the moving dots, her eyes grew wide. They're coming for me, she said simply. Everyone turned to look at her. The 4-year-old alien child stood calmly, as if she had expected this moment. What do you mean? Tejo asked, kneeling. Down to her level, my people, Hannah said. They know I'm awake now. They know I chose you as my guardian. They're coming to see if you're worthy. Dr. Park felt a chill run down her spine. Guardian? What are you talking about? Hannah looked at each of them with those ancient golden eyes. Despite her young appearance, there was wisdom there that was thousands of years old. I am not just any child, she said. I am special among my people. Very special. When I bit Pops, I chose him to be my protector, my teacher, my family. This is how my people find their guardians. Lee was working frantically at his console.
Commander.
I'm picking up a transmission. It's being broadcast on all frequencies. Put it on speakers, Dr. Park ordered. The control room filled with a voice speaking perfect Korean. The voice was female, beautiful, but with an authority that made everyone stand straighter. We come for the heir and her chosen guardian. Prepare. For peaceful contact, you mean no harm to your station or your people. We seek only our child and the one she is bonded with. The message repeated 3 times, then stopped. Hannah smiled up at Tejo. That's my mother's voice. She's the empress of our people. She rules many worlds among the stars. Dr. Park sat down, heavily in her chair, an empress. An alien empress was coming to their small research station. Somehow, Tejo had become involved in galactic politics by letting a child bite his finger. Long do we have? She asked Lee. At their current speed, maybe 18 hours, he replied. Dr. Park activated the emergency communication system. She needed to contact Earth immediately. Humanity's first contact with an alien civilization was about to happen, and she was not prepared for this. While the adults panicked and made urgent calls, Hannah continued to work on the broken devices. She had improved half the station's equipment in just 3 days. Everything she touched worked better than before. Tejo watched her small hands as they moved with impossible skill. The warm feeling from her bite was still in his body, growing. Stronger each day, he could feel her emotions now. Her happiness when she fixed something. That's her love for him as her chosen guardian. Her excitement about seeing her mother again, but he could also feel something else. Fear, not from Hannah, but from somewhere deeper. Something was coming with those ships. Something that would test him in ways he couldn't imagine. Pops, Hannah said, looking up from her work. Are you scared? Tejo knelt down and hugged her small form. Despite everything that was happening, despite the impossibility of the situation, he felt a deep love for this strange child who had chosen him. Little, he admitted. Hannah hugged him back with surprising strength. Don't be scared. You're special. Now, too, the bite made you special. My people will see that. They'll understand why I chose you. Outside the station windows, space looked the same as always. But somewhere in that darkness, ships were coming. Ships carrying beings with power beyond human understanding, and at the center of it all was a small blue child who called him Pops and had somehow made him part of something much bigger than himself. Tejo held Hannah closer and wondered if he was ready for what was coming. Ready or not, first contact was only hours away. The alien ships arrived exactly 18 hours later, just as Lee Dong-woo had predicted. But nothing could have prepared the humans for what they saw. Through the observation windows of Lunar Research Station Gamma 7, the fleet looked like living creatures swimming through space. The ships were not made of metal like human vessels. They were smooth and curved, with surfaces that seemed to breathe. They glowed with the same soft blue light as Hannah's skin. Dr. Park Sojin stood in the control room, trying to stay calm. Behind her, emergency messages from Earth filled the communication channels. Every military base in the solar system was on high alert. Earth's defense fleet was moving toward Luna, But everyone knew their weapons would be useless against technology. This advanced. How many ships are there? Dr. Park asked. Lee checked his sensors. I count 47 vessels. The largest one is 15 kilometers long. Our entire station could fit inside it 100 times. Hannah sat quietly in a corner, playing with a toy that Tejo had made for her from spare parts. She seemed completely calm, unlike the panicking humans around her. She had grown again overnight. She looked like a 6-year-old child, with the wisdom of ages in her golden eyes. They won't hurt you, she said, without looking up from her. Toy. My people are peaceful. They only fight when there's no other choice. Tejo knelt beside her. Over the past few days, he had learned to trust her completely. The bite had created a bond between them that went deeper than words. He could feel her emotions, and she could feel his. What will happen now? He asked. Mother will come aboard your station, Hannah replied. She'll want to meet you. She'll want to see if you're worthy to be my guardian. And what if I'm not worthy? Hannah looked up at him with those bright golden eyes. You are worthy, Pops. That's why I chose you. The bite doesn't lie. A new voice filled the control room. This time, it wasn't a recording. Someone was speaking. To them directly. Lunar Research Station Gamma 7. This is Empress Nari of the Viridian Empire. I request permission to board your station. I come in peace to meet my daughter and her chosen guardian. Dr. Park looked at Tejo. The decision wasn't really hers to make. Everything had changed the moment Hannah bit Tejo's finger. This was bigger than their small research station. This was bigger than Earth itself. Permission granted, Dr. Park said into the microphone. Docking Bay 2 is available. I will not use your docking bay, the voice replied. My people do not need such things. Watch the windows. They watched as the largest ship moved closer to the station. It stopped just a few meters away from the outer hull. Then something amazing happened. A bridge of light appeared between the ship and the station. It looked like solid blue crystal, but it was made of pure energy. The bridge connected directly to the station's main corridor, creating an airlock that shouldn't have been possible. Impossible, Lee whispered. How are they doing that? Hannah stood up and smoothed down her simple clothes. Tejo had found children's clothing in the station supplies, but nothing seemed quite right for an alien princess. Mother is coming, Hannah said. Pops, you should come with me to meet her. Tejo felt his heart beating fast. He was about to meet an alien empress, a being who ruled countless worlds among the stars. And somehow, he was supposed to convince her that he was worthy to be her daughter's guardian. They walked down the corridor toward the light bridge. Dr. Park and Lee followed at a distance, along with several other crew members who wanted to witness this historic moment. As they approached the bridge, a figure appeared in the light. At first it was just a shadow. Then the shadow became real. Empress Nari stepped onto the station, and everyone forgot how to breathe. She was the most beautiful being any of them had ever seen. She looked almost human, but perfect in every way. Her skin was the same blue as Hannah's, but lighter, like morning sky. Her hair was silver and moved like liquid metal, flowing around her shoulders without any wind to move it. But it was her eyes that captured everyone's attention. They were the same golden color as Hannah's, but they shifted and changed like flames. Right now, they showed curiosity, intelligence, and something that might have been hope. She wore robes that seemed to be made of starlight itself. They sparkled and flowed around her tall, elegant form. On her head sat a crown that looked like it was carved from a single piece of crystal. "My daughter," she said, and her voice was like music. Hannah ran to her mother and was swept up in a hug. That seemed to make the air around them glow brighter. For a moment, the Empress was just a mother reunited with her child. Then those golden eyes turned to Tejo. "You're the one she chose," Empress Nari said. It wasn't a question. "Yes, Your Majesty," Tejo replied. He tried to bow, but he wasn't sure how to bow to an alien empress. She smiled, and the corridor seemed to become warmer. "Please, just call me Nari. We are family now, whether we choose to be or not." "Family?" Dr. Park asked from behind them. Nari looked at the station commander with patient eyes. "Dr. Park Sojin, yes. Your reputation as a scientist has reached even our distant worlds. Let me explain what has happened here. She gestured, and images appeared in the air around them. The images showed alien worlds, great cities among the stars, and millions of beings from dozens of different species. This is the Viridian Empire, Nari said. We rule over 3,000 worlds. We have brought peace to countless species across the galaxy. Hannah is my only child. She is the heir to all of this. The images changed to show Viridian children in some kind of ceremony. Each child bit an adult, creating the same glowing connection that Tejo had experienced. The bonding bite is sacred among my people, Nari continued. It happens only once in a Viridian's lifetime. The child chooses their guardian instinctively. That guardian becomes their parent, their teacher, their protector. By our laws, Tejo is now Hannah's adoptive father. Tejo felt the weight of those words. Adoptive father to an alien princess. Guardian to the heir of a galactic empire. But there's more, Nari said, and her golden eyes focused on Tejo with an intensity that made him feel dizzy. By bonding with the heir, Tejo has also bonded with me. According to our ancient laws, we are now engaged to be married. The corridor fell completely silent. Even Hannah looked surprised by this announcement. Married, Tejo said weakly. It is the way of our people, Nari explained. The guardian of the heir becomes part of the royal family. This marriage would unite your species with ours. Humanity would become our partners in ruling the galaxy. Dr. Park made a sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. One bite from a child, and humanity joins a galactic empire? Nari smiled again. Sometimes the smallest actions have the greatest consequences. The question now is whether Tejo accepts this responsibility. All eyes turned to Tejo. In his arms, Hannah looked up at him with complete trust and love. Pops, will you stay with me? Will you stay with me? Tejo looked at this small blue child who had changed his entire world in just a few days. Then he looked at her mother, an empress of the stars, who was offering him something beyond his wildest dreams. Yes, he said simply. I'll stay. Hannah hugged him tightly, and somewhere in the distance, alarms began to sound as Earth's fleet arrived to find their world had just joined the galaxy. Captain Junseek arrived at the lunar station 3 hours after Empress Neris' peaceful landing. His fleet of 12 Earth defense ships looked tiny next to the massive Viridian vessels, like children's toys floating next to real spaceships. Ambassador Yoon Mira came with him, along with Earth's best diplomats and scientists. They had traveled from Earth as fast as their ships could carry them, knowing that the future of humanity depended on what happened in the next few days. Tae-Ho stood in the station's main conference room, feeling completely out of place. Just a week ago, he had been a simple xenobiologist, studying alien samples. He was engaged to an empress, and about to represent humanity in the most important negotiations in human history. Hannah sat beside him, looking like a normal 7-year-old child. She had grown again overnight, and her intelligence seemed to expand with her size. She understood everything that was happening, even the political parts that confused the adults. Don't worry, Pops, she whispered to Tejo. No, you're going to do great things. I can feel it through our bond. Empress Nari sat across the table from the human delegation. Even in the station's simple conference room, she looked like royalty. Her silver hair moved gently around her shoulders, and her golden eyes watched everything with keen interest. Welcome, Captain Junseek and Ambassador Yoon Mira, she said in perfect Korean. I hope we can reach an understanding that benefits both our peoples. Captain Junseek was a military man with gray hair and worried eyes. He had spent his whole career preparing to defend Earth from alien invasion. He had never expected to sit down for tea with an alien empress. Your Majesty, he said carefully, Earth's government has sent me to understand your intentions. Your technology is clearly far superior to ours. What do you want from humanity? Nari smiled, and the room seemed to become warmer. That is exactly the wrong question, Captain. The better question is, what can humanity offer to the galaxy? Ambassador Yoon Mira leaned forward. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and a quick mind. What do you mean? Let me show you, Nari said. She gestured, and images appeared in the air above the table. The images showed various alien species from across the Viridian Empire. "These are the Kaleri," she said, pointing to tall, thin beings with blue-green skin. "They are master engineers. Can build anything, but only if they follow exact plans. They never innovate." The image changed to show different aliens, these ones covered in scales. "These are the Morthok. They're brilliant mathematicians. They can solve any equation, but they think in straight lines. They cannot imagine new possibilities." No more. Images appeared, showing dozens of different species. Each race in our empire is highly specialized. They are very good at what they do, but they do it the same way for thousands of years. Our civilization has become ... stuck. Teho found himself speaking without thinking. "You need people who think differently." "Exactly," Nari said, her golden eyes lighting up. "Humans are chaotic, unpredictable. You make mistakes, but you also make breakthroughs. You solve problems in ways that no one else would ever think of." Commander Hyanwu stepped out of the shadows near the door. He was tall and imposing, with dark blue skin and silver markings that covered his arms. His golden eyes were cold and unfriendly. "With respect, Empress," he said in a voice like grinding stone, "humans are primitive. They have barely left their own solar system. How can such a young species offer anything to our ancient empire?" Teho felt anger rising in his chest, but Hannah put her small hand on his arm. Through their bond, he felt her calm confidence. She believed in him completely. "Commander Hyanwu speaks for many of our nobles," Nari admitted. "They believe that humans are too different, too unpredictable to join our empire as equals." "Then, let us prove ourselves," Ambassador Yunmira said firmly. Over the next 2 days, a series of tests began. The Viridians presented problems that had puzzled their greatest minds for centuries. Human scientists led by Dr. Seogen from Earth Space Research Institute tackled each challenge with enthusiasm. The first problem involved a broken piece of Viridian technology. It was a device that could create artificial gravity, but it had stopped working properly hundreds of years ago. Viridian engineers had tried to fix it using their traditional methods. But nothing worked. Dr. Saugen looked at the device for 20 minutes. Then he took out a small hammer and hit it in 3 specific places. The device started working perfectly. "Impossible," Commander Hyanwu muttered.
"How did you know to do that?"
"Sometimes," Dr. Seogen said with a grin, "the simplest solution is the right solution. Your people overthink everything." The second test involved navigation through a dangerous asteroid field. Viridian pilots used complex mathematical calculations to plot safe courses. It took them hours to find a path. Captain Junseek studied the problem for 10 minutes, then input a course that looked completely random. When they tested it in simulation, his path was not only safe, but also 50% faster than the Viridian route. "How?" asked the Viridian navigator. "Intuition," Captain Junseek replied. "Sometimes you have to trust your gut feeling instead of relying only on numbers." But the real test came on the 3rd day, when Commander Hyanwu tried to sabotage the negotiations. He secretly damaged the station's life support systems, making it look like a human equipment failure. His plan was to show that human technology is unreliable and dangerous. The oxygen levels began dropping throughout the station. Emergency alarms sounded. The Viridian guests could survive in low oxygen, but the humans were in serious trouble. "See?" Hyanwu said loudly. "Human technology fails at the worst possible moment. How can we trust such people as partners?" But Teho felt something through his bond with Hannah. She was trying to tell him something. Her enhanced understanding of technology, combined with his human intuition, showed him what was really happening. "This isn't equipment failure," Teho said. "Someone sabotaged the life support on purpose." Working together, Teho and Hannah traced the problem to its source. Hannah's alien knowledge helped them understand the complex systems, while Teho's human creativity found unexpected solutions, they discovered. Hyanwu's sabotage and fixed the damage using a combination of human tools and Viridian technology. The repair was better than the original system, improving the station's efficiency by 30%. Empress. Nari looked at Commander Hyanwu with disappointment in her golden eyes. You put innocent lives at risk to prove a point? This is not the Viridian way. I was trying to protect our empire from contamination by inferior beings, Hyenwu said stubbornly. Instead, Nari replied, you have proven exactly why we need humans in our empire. They see solutions where we see only problems. They find hope where we see only obstacles. That evening, Taeho sat with Hannah in his quarters. She was reading a book about Earth's history, absorbing information faster than any human child could. You did well today, Pops, she said without looking up from her book. Mother is very impressed with you. I couldn't have done it without you, Taeho replied. We make a good team. Hannah smiled and curled up next to him. That's because we're family now. Really family. Not just because of the bite, but because we choose to be. Through the window, Earth hung in space like a blue and white jewel. Soon, that small world would become part of something much larger. And it would all be because a little alien girl had bitten a lonely scientist's finger and called him Pops. The future was full of possibilities that no one could have imagined just a week ago. Elder Kaijin arrived at the lunar station in a ship that looked like it was made of living crystal. He was the oldest member of the Viridian High Council, a being who had lived for over 3,000 years. His appearance was different from other Viridians. His blue skin was darker, almost purple, and covered with golden markings that glowed softly in the light. Taeho stood beside Empress Nari as they watched the ancient being walk across the light bridge. Hannah had grown again and now looked like a 10-year-old girl. She held Taeho's hand tightly, and he could feel her nervousness through their bond. Elder Kaijin has come to test us, Nari explained quietly. He represents the old ways of thinking. He believes that only proven species should join our empire as equals. What kind of tests? Taeho asked. 3 trials, Hannah said, her young voice serious. The trial of mind, the trial of heart, and the trial of courage. If you pass all 3, the High Council will accept our marriage and humanity's place in the empire. Elder Kaijin entered the station with slow, careful steps. His golden eyes were ancient and wise, but they held no warmth. He looked at Taeho like a scientist studying an interesting but possibly dangerous specimen. So, he said in a voice that sounded like wind through old trees, this is the human who claims to be worthy of our princess. I don't claim anything, Taeho replied respectfully. Only know that I love Hannah and want to protect her. Love, Elder Kaijin repeated the word like it tasted strange. An interesting concept. But love alone is not enough to rule an empire. You must prove your worth through the ancient trials. The first trial began immediately. Elder Kaijin led them to a large chamber on his crystal ship. The walls were covered with floating symbols and numbers that hurt Taeho's eyes to look at directly. This is the trial of mind, the elder explained. Before you is the navigation equation of stellar paths. It determines the safest routes between star systems. Our greatest mathematicians have been trying to improve this equation for 500 years. You have 1 hour to find a better solution. SCO Jun and several other human scientists joined Taeho in the chamber. They stared at the floating equations with growing dismay. The mathematics were incredibly complex, using concepts that humans had never seen before. This is impossible, Dr. Seojin whispered. We don't even understand half of these symbols. Taeho felt something through his bond with Hannah. She was trying to help him, sharing her knowledge of Viridian mathematics. Slowly, the symbols began to make sense. Wait, Taeho said. I think I understand. This equation assumes that space is perfectly uniform. But space isn't uniform. It's full of gravitational fields and energy currents. Working together, the human team approached the problem from a completely different angle, instead of trying to calculate perfect paths. They created an equation that could adapt to changing conditions in real time. When they presented their solution, Elder Kaijin stared at the results for a long time. Remarkable, he finally said. Your adaptive approach reduces travel time by 30% and increases safety by 50%. You have passed the trial of mind. The second trial took place the next day. Tss. Elder Kaijin created a simulation chamber that looked exactly like a Viridian school. Inside, Holographic children from different alien species sat at desks, waiting to be taught. "This is the trial of heart," he explained.
Ow!
"You must teach these children about justice and wisdom. But each child comes from a different culture with different values. You must find a way to teach them that respects their differences while building unity." Tejo entered the simulation feeling nervous. He had never been a teacher, especially not to alien children. The holographic students looked up at him with curious eyes. Some were tall and thin, others were short and covered in fur. Looked like it was made of living crystal. For a moment, Tejo didn't know what to say, and he remembered his own childhood and the stories his grandmother used to tell him. "Let me tell you about a wise old farmer," he began, who had to share. "One small field with many different animals. He told them stories from Earth, but he changed them to include characters from their own cultures. He talked about justice by showing how different species could work together for the common good. He taught about wisdom by demonstrating how different viewpoints could solve problems that seemed impossible." The alien children listened with growing excitement. They began to participate, adding their own cultural stories to his lessons. Soon, the classroom was filled with laughter and learning. When the simulation ended, Elder Kaijin looked impressed despite himself. "He did not try to force your human values on them," he observed. "Instead, you found the common truths that all civilized beings share. You have passed the trial of heart. The third trial was the most dangerous. A real emergency occurred on Kelos Prime, a Viridian colony world. A massive earthquake had triggered volcanic eruptions, trapping thousands of colonists in underground shelters. The rescue ships couldn't reach them because of the toxic gases and unstable ground. "This is the trial of courage," Elder Kaijin announced. "A worthy guardian must be willing to risk everything to protect innocent lives. Will you volunteer for the rescue mission?" Tejo didn't hesitate. "Yes, Pops. No." Hannah cried out. "It's too dangerous." Tejo knelt down and hugged her. "Sometimes being brave means doing scary things to help others. You taught me that." The rescue mission was unlike anything humans had ever attempted. Tejo worked with a team of Viridian engineers to modify human mining equipment for the alien environment. His human creativity, combined with Viridian technology, created tools that neither species could have built alone. On Kelos Prime, the ground shook constantly and poisonous gas filled the air. Tejo wore a protective suit, but he could feel the danger all around him. The volcanic activity was getting worse by the hour, using the modified equipment. The rescue team drilled through collapsed tunnels and toxic rock. Tejo's human instincts helped him find safe paths through the unstable terrain. When the Viridian sensors failed in the harsh conditions, he relied on sound and vibration to locate the trapped colonists. One by one, they brought the survivors to safety. There were Kalari engineers with their blue-green skin, Morthok mathematicians covered in protective scales, and even some human colonists who had been visiting the world. The most dangerous moment came. The child was trapped in a space too small for the rescue robots. The tunnel was about to collapse. Toxic gas was leaking in quickly. Tejo stripped off his protective gear and crawled into the narrow space. Without protection, he had only minutes before the gas would kill him. He found the child, a young Kalari girl who was unconscious from gas poisoning. He carried her out just as the tunnel collapsed behind them. Both of them were rushed to the medical ship, where Viridian doctors worked to save their lives. Tejo woke up 3 days later in a hospital bed. Hannah was sitting beside him, tears of joy streaming down her blue cheeks. "You did it, Pops," she said. "You saved them all. Even Elder Kajin is impressed." Indeed, when Elder Kajin visited Tejo's hospital room, the ancient being looked at him with something that might have been respect. "You risked your life for beings you had never met," the elder said. "You used human creativity to solve problems that had defeated our best engineers. You showed courage that impressed even our military commanders." He paused, his ancient golden eyes studying Tejo's face. "Most importantly, you did not try to prove you were superior to us. Instead, you proved that humans and Viridians are stronger together than either species is alone." Elder Kajin turned to leave, then stopped at the door. "You have passed all 3 trials, Guardian Tejo. The High Council will approve your marriage to Empress Nari. Humanity will join the Viridian Empire, not as subjects, but as equal partners. After he left, Tejo laid back in his hospital bed, exhausted but happy. Through the window, he could see Earth hanging in space, like a small blue jewel. Soon, that little world would be part of something much bigger and more wonderful than anyone had ever imagined. Hannah curled up beside him on the bed, careful not to disturb his bandages. "I'm proud of you, Pops," she said softly. "You're going to be a great emperor?" "Emperor?" Tejo asked, surprised. "When you marry Mother, you'll be the emperor of the Viridian Empire. That means you'll help rule 3,000 worlds." Tejo closed his eyes and tried not to think about the enormous responsibility that was waiting for him. For now it was enough to know that he had passed the trials and that Hannah was safe and happy. The future could wait until tomorrow. 2 weeks had passed since Tejo completed the 3 trials. The wedding preparations were almost ready, and representatives from hundreds of worlds had come to witness the historic ceremony. But on this morning, everything changed when young Prince Wujin arrived with a massive war fleet. Tejo stood on the observation deck of the Viridian flagship, watching the approaching ships. There were over 200 vessels, all painted in the deep red colors of the Royal Guard. At their head was a ship even larger than Empress Neris's flagship. "Who is Prince Wujin?" Tejo asked. Hannah, now looking like a 12-year-old but with the wisdom of someone much older, stood beside him with worry in her golden eyes. "He's my cousin," she said quietly. "Before I was born, he was going to be the next emperor. When I chose you as my guardian, it meant he would never rule the empire." Nari joined them on the observation deck. Her silver hair moved anxiously around her shoulders, and her golden eyes showed concern. "Wujin has been away fighting rebels in the outer systems," she explained. "He just learned about our engagement. He's not happy about losing his claim to the throne." The communication system crackled to life. A young male voice filled the room, speaking with anger and authority. "Aunt Nari, I demand to speak with you immediately. Marriage to a primitive human is illegal under the old laws. I challenge the validity of the bonding and claim my rightful place as heir to the empire." "He can't do that, can he?" Tejo asked. "Actually, he can," Nari said sadly. "The old laws give any royal family member the right to challenge major decisions through the trial of vision." "What's the trial of vision?" Tejo asked. Hannah took his hand and he felt her nervousness. "Through their bond, it's a contest to see who has the best plan for the future of the empire. The winner gets to make the final decision about the marriage and about humanity joining our people." An hour later, they met Prince Wujin in the Great Assembly Hall of the flagship. The hall was huge, with representatives from dozens of species sitting in curved rows that rose toward the ceiling. Elder Kaijin and the other High Council members sat at the front, ready to judge the contest. Prince Wujin was tall and imposing, with the same blue skin as other Viridians, but with angry red markings covering his arms and face. His golden eyes blazed with fury as he looked at Tejo. So this is the human who thinks he can rule our empire," he said with disgust. "Get him. Small, weak, with technology that barely allows space travel. How can such a creature be worthy of our princess?" President Janae had arrived from Earth that morning with a small diplomatic fleet. She was a strong woman with gray hair and intelligent eyes who had led Earth through many difficult times. She sat with the human delegation, watching the proceedings with careful attention. "The trial of vision begins now," Elder Kaijin announced. "Each candidate will present their plan for the future of the Viridian Empire. The High Council and assembled representatives will choose the best vision." Prince Wujin stepped forward first. Holographic images appeared around him, showing massive fleets of warships and conquered worlds. "For too long, our empire has been soft," he declared. "We have allowed weak species to join us as equals when they should serve as our subjects. Under my rule, we will expand through strength. We will conquer new worlds and force them to accept our superior civilization." The images showed battles and subjugated peoples. "Humans will serve as soldiers in our armies. Their chaotic nature makes them good fighters, but they are not worthy to be our partners. They will obey or be destroyed. Many of the assembled representatives nodded in approval. The old ways of thinking were strong among the Viridian nobility. Then it was Teho's turn. He walked to the center of the hall, feeling nervous but determined. Hannah had helped him prepare his presentation, and he knew this was the most important speech of his life. Prince Wujin speaks of strength through conquest, Teho began. But I have learned that real strength comes from cooperation, new holographic. Images appeared, showing something very different. Instead of warships, they showed cities where different species lived and worked together. Instead of conquered worlds, they showed planets where various cultures had blended to create something new and beautiful. The Viridian Empire is already the most powerful force in the galaxy, Teho continued. You don't need more weapons or more conquered worlds. What you need is new ideas, new ways of thinking, new solutions to old problems. He gestured, and the images showed human and alien scientists working together, creating technologies that neither species could have developed alone. Humans are not perfect. We make mistakes. We are chaotic and unpredictable. These things that Prince Wujin sees as weaknesses are actually our greatest strengths. The images changed to show the recent rescue mission on Kelos Prime, where human creativity had saved thousands of lives. Every species in your empire is highly specialized. The Kaleri are brilliant engineers, but they never innovate. The Morthok are amazing mathematicians, but they think in straight lines. Humans think in circles and spirals, in ways that nobody expects. Teho looked directly at the High Council members. You don't need humans as soldiers or servants. You need us as partners, as friends, as family. Together, we can solve problems that have puzzled your greatest minds for centuries. The final images showed something that took everyone's breath away. They showed integrated communities throughout the galaxy where humans served as bridges between different alien cultures. Human adaptability helped species that had never been able to work together find common ground. This is my vision, Teho concluded. Not conquest, but cooperation. Not domination, but partnership. Not an empire ruled by fear, but a galaxy united by hope. The hall fell silent. Even Prince Wujin looked uncertain for the first time. Elder Kaijin stood slowly. The High Council will now deliberate. The wait seemed to last forever. Teho sat with Hannah and Nari, holding both their hands. Through his bond with Hannah, he could feel her love and support giving him strength. Finally, Elder Kijin returned. The High Council has reached a unanimous decision. We choose the vision of cooperation over conquest, of partnership over domination, of hope over fear. He looked directly at Teho. Guardian Teho's plan for integrated communities will become the new policy of the Viridian Empire. The marriage between him and Empress Nari is approved. Humanity will join our empire as full partners. Prince Wujin's face turned darker blue with anger, but he could not argue with a unanimous decision from the High Council. The wedding ceremony took place 3 days later. It was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. Representatives from 3,000 worlds attended, either in person or through holographic projection. President Jin'ei walked Teho down the aisle, while Hannah served as the flower girl. Scattering petals that glowed with soft light, the ceremony blended human and Viridian traditions. They exchanged rings made of crystallized starlight, and their vows were translated into hundreds of languages simultaneously. When Elder Kaijin pronounced them married, the celebration could be heard across the solar system. Fireworks exploded in space, creating patterns of light that were visible from Earth. 1 year later, Teho stood on the bridge of the flagship New Harmony, watching the construction of humanity's first interstellar colony. The planet below was beautiful, with blue oceans and green continents. But what made it special was the people living there. Humans worked alongside Kaleri engineers and Morthok mathematicians. Children from a dozen different species played together in the streets. The colony was everything Teho had envisioned. During the trial of vision, Hannah, now 13 years old and wise beyond her years, joined him at the observation window. She was training to be the next empress, learning to lead with both Viridian wisdom and human creativity. "Look, Pops," she said, pointing to the planet below. There's a human family that just adopted a colliery child whose parents died in an accident. And see that building? It's a school where children from 8 different species learn together. Ho smiled. Are you happy with how things turned out? Very happy, Hannah replied. But do you ever think about that night when I first bit your finger? Did you know it would lead to all this? Tejo thought back to that quiet night in the research lab. A lonely scientist studying a mysterious pod, small creature taking its first breath and choosing him as family. No, he said honestly. I never imagined anything like this. I just knew that I wanted to take care of you. And now you take care of everyone, Hannah said proudly. Through the communication system, they could hear reports from across the galaxy. Human-alien partnerships were forming on hundreds of worlds. Problems that had seemed impossible were being solved through cooperation and creativity. The galaxy was changing, becoming something better than it had ever been before. Empress Nari joined them on the bridge, her silver hair shining in the light from the stars. The council meeting went well, she reported. 17 more species have requested to join our partnership program. She stood beside Tejo and took his hand. Even after a year of marriage, he still felt amazed that this beautiful, powerful woman had chosen to share her life with him. Any regrets? She asked quietly. Tejo looked at his wife and daughter, then at the thriving colony below, then at the vast galaxy of stars that was now his responsibility to help protect and guide. Only one, he said with a smile. I wish my grandmother could have met you. Both. She would have loved you. Hannah hugged both her parents. Maybe someday we'll find a way to visit the past and introduce her to us. With human creativity and Viridian technology, Nari laughed. Anything is possible. As they stood together watching their new world grow and prosper, Tejo reflected on the strange journey that had brought them here. A small bite from a curious, alien child had changed not just his life, but the destiny of an entire galaxy. And this was only the beginning.